In the beginning of September this year, one of London's most well-known and internationally recognized nightclubs, Fabric, had its license revoked due to drug-related deaths. The decision sparked a major public reaction and generated a debate about London's nightlife in general. In the past decade, many nightclubs in the city have shut, and others, such as Coronet in Elephant and Castle, will close their doors for good.
Fabric was one of the things that brought me to London, initially from Denmark. The venue provided like lineups on one night that we would have the same artists spread over a whole year in Copenhagen, and it was my goal as a musician, as a DJ, to get to that venue.
After almost 3 months of battle, Fabric won its license back. Still, it sets an example of what difficulties nightclub owners face on a daily basis in London.
I think it has a huge impact on London's nightlife. I think when a club that is well run, internationally famous, and financially successful can be closed that easily, then a new generation of young people go, why would I want to do this business? Oh my gosh, if the police can close Fabric like that, I don't want to set up a nightclub. And then you're left in a position that nightclubs will come staid and dull and run by old people like me.
And we've seen it in a number of other places. Most recently, we've seen after Fabric, we've seen Mode close down on an expedited review in Acklam Road on the basis of a serious offence, not even a crime reported or prosecuted.
Crime is nothing new, but clubs have become more regulated. Andrew Jezowski and Susan Carrington ran the famous Brixton club The Fridge for almost 3 decades. They were an important part of UK's punk movement with their first club Roxy, known for hosting some of the most influential punk bands in history. As they've been a part of the music industry for such a long time, they have witnessed those changes.
What changed a lot for me was the new licensing laws in 2003. Yeah. That was tedious, wasn't it? You had to answer to the police about every event you were putting on, who the DJs were. And they could say, no, we don't want to do that night because we think it's going to be problems. Then you've got restrictions with no smoking, double red route. Everywhere you had a sign, don't smoke, don't take drugs, don't do that. It changed, didn't it? It became you were working for the establishment, which we never ever thought we were doing.
Police are coming down heavy on drugs, and dear. Drugs in London and in big cities, it's just there, and I blame the authorities and the police who either deal with it, but don't blame the club operators for being the cause of the problem. We're not.
When I was young and I first started, or younger, it was a much more relaxed environment. The police were more savvy, and you weren't run under this pressure. But the problem is now results-based policing forces, they're so obsessed with statistics that they're on nightclubs.
It's a lot more restriction in terms of, as I said, police interference, council interference,
searching people. Outrageous when you pay money to go somewhere and you're searched at the road like a criminal.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
and you can't really smoke. It's outrageous, really.
Even we had to be searched before we went in the club, didn't we? At one point.
Even though these venues are closing down and they're not building any new ones, obviously. Hopefully, our old Fridge premises, which still exist, we don't have anything to do with it.
No.
They've been semi-preserved by the council. They won't let developers knock it down, which I think is a good thing, because they see it as what they call a community asset, which is not a bad thing. But how long that's going to last, I don't know.
Around 10 years ago, Electric Brixton bought The Fridge and started running their own nights. For many people in the entertainment industry, clubs are the most important source of income.
I think the closure of Fabric was a disaster for London. I think particularly after the Brexit vote, you might as well have hung a "London is closed for business" sign on our front door at Heathrow Airport when people come in. Fabric is an internationally famous venue. It's one of the most famous nightclubs in the world. It's right up there, sort of Berlin's nightclubs. Studio 54 is an international reputation, and to close it like that is just a dreadful signal for a city like London, which is, after all, supposed to be alongside Berlin, New York, Shanghai, one of the capitals of the world, not the capital of Britain. I think that's a disastrous thing.
The nightlife business often interferes with housing issues in the city.
We don't have enough housing, not for young people, not for anyone, and that has an impact on bars and nightclubs, because if it's more profitable or only cost effective to rent out a space to make luxury apartments, then people would do that.
London is in a very bizarre way, because it's so dense and it's in such demand for housing, with immigration and everything else that goes on. These places are just going to, the land has just become too valuable to leave as an entertainment premises. That it's better to knock off a block of flats.
The fact that councils and police's actions towards crime in nightclubs have become too harsh is not a good thing for London, but it is inevitable that certain areas redevelop.
It's quite central in regards to London. The houses around the Brixton area, they are very nice. They're Victorian, Edwardian, houses. They're large, they're huge. So it had to happen in time. And we helped make it happen, because by us staying in Brixton and building up a successful nightclub business, obviously we dealt with youngish people, so we're in the teens and 20s by and large. Now, they never had houses. But they got to like Brixton if they came in from outside of Brixton or outside of Lambeth, and they had no fear or worry about it. So as they grew up and got their first jobs and incomes and wanted to buy a house, the idea of them buying a cheap house in Brixton, because Brixton was cheaper than the rest of London because of the whole riot torn story, they had no fear, because they had already been to Brixton and enjoyed themselves with our club. And they're the ones who came in and bought properties later as they grew up. But it had to happen.
Nearby is Elephant and Castle, an area that is going through major changes. For the nightclub Coronet, this has been a struggle for many years, and in 2018 the venue is scheduled for demolition after an active period of more than 100 years. For club owners in other areas, such as Camden, business is an ongoing battle.
I had a licence review here 4 years ago, and I was very nearly closed down. On basically two or three guys through a fist fight. The police turned up when it was happening. They got upset, and a cop who didn't like me trying to shut me down.
Over the past 16 years, I've seen a lot of great venues close down. Part of it, there's not as much choice anymore in London.
So why is this trend so dangerous for a city like London?
Nightlife represents an enormous contribution to Britain, nearly 70 billion per annum. And rather than talking about antisocial behaviour and crime all the time, let us understand the employment, revenue, cultural, social and economic benefits in the UK.
It is a tough operating environment. I don't think it's a very fair operating environment, and it should be fairer and easier. But I still think Britain has some of the best nightlife in the world. I think don't overplay, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I also hope that this whole story with Fabric will change something in how nightclub is perceived by the general public and politicians.
Although Fabric won its license back, it is still under threat. Any minor incident would cause another long legal process with Islington Council. It might seem like the nightlife in London is going downhill, but despite the strict regulations, it still offers a huge variety of venues. Hopefully, in the near future, there will be a compromise between authorities and the club management.